Good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of Ronnie and Philip Paradis to speak in regard to the passing of former Lewiston City Councilor Mark W. Paradis. Mark passed away earlier this afternoon with his family by his side. Incredibly, his son Philip, who Mark loved dearly, was fortunate enough to get a flight out of Kentucky and arrive in time to be with his dad in his final moments. As past council president who served with Mark for many years, I was fortunate and honored to have gotten to know him and witness his deep love of family, the city of Lewiston, and this entire community. Mark was taken to CMMC Intensive Care Unit earlier this morning after experiencing some difficulty breathing, and from there his health declined very quickly. I won't speak to the details relative to the cause of death, but as you already know, Mark did announce earlier this week that he had cancer and was already receiving treatment for his illness. Well known by many in this community. He served on the planning board from 1997 to 2001. He served on the city council from 2002 to 2008. His record of public service speaks to his love of this community and commitment to the residents of the city of Lewiston. Over the course of the last 14 years, he also served on 6 other boards and committees, most recently having served on the Finance Committee. Needless to say, his record of public service reveals much about Mark's dedication to this community and his desire to make it an even better place to live. Public service was a way of life for Mark, both in terms of his own contributions as well as supporting his wife Ronnie's civic engagements, which include her employment as a public health nurse, multiple terms serving as a school committee member, and her involvement with the LA Public Health Committee. His passion for the city of Lewiston was always equaled by his passion for life and his love of his family and friends, some of whom are here today. His personality was one of being good-natured, always answering the best, always the best. When asked how he was doing, and a man who loved and cherished his wife and his son, Ronnie and Philip, though many people will be deeply saddened to learn of Mark's passing, his family believes it's important for everyone to know how deeply he wanted to continue serving the city as mayor. This was a dream that goes back many years for him, and I personally have spoken with Mark about this multiple times. His family and all those close to him know firsthand how much the opportunity to serve as mayor meant to him. In that regard, I learned just a few hours ago that both the city clerk and the city attorney have advised the city administrator's office that the election must be held on Tuesday, December 13th. Throughout his long-time public service and recent mayoral campaign, he shared many ideas and plans for Lewiston's future. As such, I can think of no better way for residents to honor him by supporting his vision for leadership at the polls on Tuesday. May his memory be eternal. Thank you very much.
As mayor of Lewiston, my heart was deeply saddened to learn of former city councilor Mark Paradis' demise. I was proud to call him friend and would have been extremely proud to have turned over the office of mayor to him on Tuesday, December 13th. I still intend to vote for him at the polls on Tuesday, and I would encourage other residents who had intended to vote for him to still go to the polls and vote for Mark Paradis. Mark Paradis was a man of character and integrity, with a zest for life, his family, and this city. During his tenure as city councilor, he made thoughtful decisions, voted with his conscience, his heart, and his dedication to all Lewiston residents. We have been truly blessed to have had Mark Paradis as a public servant and a community member. He leaves a legacy that all who knew him will never forget, because people like Mark are unforgettable. His honesty, devotion to civic engagement, and his vision for Lewiston's future were truly a class act. In closing, I would like to extend my sympathies to Mark's family and to all who ever knew and loved him. His passing will leave a tremendous void in our community, and may we all reflect on what he stood for as we live our own lives. At this point, I'll turn it over to the City Clerk, Kathy Monteo, who will explain the process for the election Tuesday and if the occasion arises thereafter. So, Kathy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Kathy Monteo, and I'm the City Clerk for Lewiston. And as was noted earlier, we have consulted with the City Attorney's Office regarding this issue, and they have advised that the city should move forward with the election on Tuesday as scheduled. So the polls will be open on Tuesday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. All voting will take place at the Multipurpose Center on Birch Street. If Mr. McDonald receives the most amount of votes on Tuesday, then he will be declared the mayor and will be sworn in on January 3rd at the inauguration. If Mark Paradis receives the highest number of votes, then a vacancy will be declared in the office of mayor, and the city council would then need to call for a special election to fill that seat. If Mr. Paradis does receive the most amount of votes and a vacancy is declared, then the process for the election to the office of mayor would start all over again. Nomination papers would be available. Any registered voter of Lewiston could take out nomination papers, circulate papers, submit papers, and have their name on the ballot for mayor, so the process would start all over again. Other than that, we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Did anybody release the type of cancer Mr. Paradis had? You had conflicting reports of brain, lung cancer.
At this point, I'd really like to have their family have their time, and if they would like to release it at a later date, they probably would.
We've heard the cause of death being related to pneumonia that's being reported right now.
I will tell you again that I think at this point that the family needs to have their time, and if they want to discuss it, they can.
Despite his diagnosis, I mean, he stood at the podium a few days ago and pretty confident that, according to what his doctors were telling him, that he would be able to live out a 2-year term. And this really seems to come as a shock to certainly us, but to you as well. Can you explain how?
I would tell you, as a close friend of his, I'm shocked also. And again, I will tell you at this point, and to respect the family at this difficult time, that if you have questions that you want answered, that you wait and the family can probably discuss it. But I don't think any of us here today are going to discuss any of that.
Why did you encourage the public to vote for him?
Well, as I served with Mark for a long time, and actually that's how I met him, and we became good friends. It was always a dream of his, and working with him very closely, and to see what type of caliber the individual is and the caring for this community. I think he would have been one of the best mayors that we had in the city, with the compassion that he's got.
I'll be glad to address that, because I think that he was the best candidate for the city of Lewiston, and that I still believe that he and only he would have been the best candidate for the city. So I would like to see the process continue beyond Tuesday. That's why I'm urging citizens to vote for him on Tuesday. He was my opponent in the last election. And shortly after the election, I appointed Mark to the Finance Committee because I knew of his dedication to the city. I served with him on the Downtown Advisory Board. He served with distinction, total dedication, and as I mentioned earlier, from the heart and from his conscience. And that's the type of man that Mark Paradis was. And that's why, I still urge people to vote for him. And that I would like to see the process continue beyond Tuesday. For, as I leave this office, I would like to leave it in the hands of someone I believe should carry on with certainly the type of service that I provided. Yes?
Mayor, who else besides you and Mike up here have run against Mr. Paradis previously? Is it just the two of you?
I think I'm the only one.
Was going ahead on Tuesday the only option for the city?
But here again, very briefly, and I think it was Drew, and here he was, working on his campaign this time. So. Yes.
Was going ahead on Tuesday the only option for the city?
Proceeding on Tuesday was at the advice of the city attorney's office. They consulted both the city charter as well as state statutes. From my understanding, there is no reference in either document if a candidate passes away so close to an election. So the recommendation is that we proceed accordingly. Keep in mind that Tuesday is a runoff election, so it's essentially a completion of the November 8th election. 5 candidates took out papers to run for mayor on November 8th. The top 2 vote getters need to face a runoff election. The municipal charter requires that the mayor receive a majority of the votes. So Mr. Paradis received, I believe, about 32% of the votes. Mr. McDonald about 31% of the votes. So they were to face off in Tuesday's election. So Tuesday's election is a completion, essentially, of the November 8th regular election. So based upon that, their recommendation was that the voters of Lewiston still need to make the decision who they would like to have as their mayor and be elected on Tuesday to complete that election. Again, if Mr. McDonald receives the number of votes, then he'll be sworn in as mayor, and if Mr. Paradis does, then a vacancy will occur in that office, and we'll start all over again. Thank you.
Is there any concerns about the cost that could be incurred if there's another election that has to be, where that has to take place?
That's not a consideration. Okay. So there being no further questions, we'll end the press conference. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming, for understanding, and we appreciate those in the audience who came as support and those who all here came as support. So we thank you.